entire time I knew him, he only ever had one goal. To wipe
20% of Joel's data.
If he gets all the
Data.
Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers. Just like that.
Tell me his name again.
Big boy.
Howdy fellas, welcome back to Level Up Producing, and today we have more bad news. So it turns out a month ago when Big Boy decided to go big boom and lose all of my data, and then I go mad hacker man, and then I bring back 80% of it. Turns out when I did that, I didn't actually bring back all the footage for September. I lost a lot of the screen recording of it. I lost a lot of the audio I did for like the talking head bits like this bit. And last week's Joel thought we were all G, but it turns out I was spitting some hot garbage. As you can see from this very organized whiteboard here, this deep dive was the plan for the next few levels of how to record a cover song. Luckily, I've got the full mix here. It's mostly final. I've lost the sexy sax man, which is sad. But that kind of defeated the purpose of what I visioned for this, of just creating it from scratch. Someone was like, oh yeah, man, I want to know how to do that. And I can't really do that just from the final mix. So I consulted with my editor to see what to do, and we both thought it was best to do a flyover of this final September mix, because I did put quite a lot of hours in, and it deserves at least one level. But the next few levels, like 7 to 9, I'm going to record a different cover song for this How to Record a Cover Song series. So if you, Steven, have a cover song that you want to see covered, let me know. Put it in the comments. That's how YouTube works. Hey yo, YouTuber. Yeah, woo woo. Anyhow, flyover. Let's go. Quick hotkey of the day for you. Whoa, didn't expect this. I had Control Z clicked, and when I click on stuff, it goes really big. I don't want that. Control Z, hotkey of the day. We're flying. Let's go. Where we started with, Benno found all of the original stems for September. When people say stems, they just mean the original like tracks that they recorded to, broken down into the different instruments. Fun fact. Anyway, so we looked at those as a starting point to figure out where to go. We're not trying to be scary pockets here or anything. So we were just pretty much trying to replicate what they were doing. And Benno came in and locked in with some bass and some keys. So all the bass, all the keys locked in. Where do I start with that? I started with drums. Instead of using the sequencer like in the lo-fi beat, I instead used a real drum kit because it's more intuitive. And I locked in this kind of beat. Real standard rock beat, because that's what they do on the recording. Remember, this is pre-lo-fi beat Tutorial Island, so I wasn't even using EQ or anything. I was just going loose unit, whatever the standard plugins were when you click like, Neo Soul, 4 to the floor. I just literally picked them in Logic, and I was like, yeah, man, that sounds good, and we locked it in. In retrospect, probably could have done more in terms of processing there, but didn't. Locked in the groove. We move on. I did some guitars. Again, not very good at guitars, but I listened to the different guitar parts in the stems, back to the stems. So I was like, all right, how can I do that? So I locked in with these 4 guys right here. Didn't get the sounds exactly right, but you can recognize the parts. And I really cheated with that acoustic guitar part because I actually recorded on my acoustic and it just didn't sound right. So I turned it into an electric and it sounded better. Anyway, we move on. After that, I did vocals, I think. And I want to spend a bit more time here in terms of flying over it. So there's a lot of vocals going on. I spent quite a bit of time trying to get my vocal production sounding schmick. This is the first time I've done vocals. I'm a bit insecure. You're singing. It's a bit scarier than, tooting a horn or whatever. So I wanted to spend a bit of extra time to try and figure out how to sound good. And you'll notice there's quite a lot going on here. I use this guy's video quite a bit. Mitchell Pigsley from 2015 did a breakdown of vocal production using this sort of setup where this stuff's happening in series and this stuff's happening in parallel. And I use that quite heavily as a starting point. I think I also used Music Tech Help Guy. I think he was good. But this is a while ago. I don't fully remember. But I'll quickly talk through what I did. So if I solo just the lead vocal without any of these plugins. So I'm just going to select this little bit with the Chasing the Clouds Away, Our Hearts Are Ringing. Chasing the clouds away, our hearts are chasing. So you can hear a couple things that are wrong with that immediately. My tone is a bit nasally and kind of thin, and the dynamic range there is quite bad. So the loud bits are too loud, the soft bits are too soft, you're losing some of that nuance. So what I wanted to do first was pitch correct because I'm insecure. Then do a channel EQ, which would hopefully fix that kind of tonal issue that was happening. Give it a bit more body and give it a bit of brightness that I actually wanted. Chasing the clouds away, out to chasing the clouds. So in terms of tone, that fixed up quite a bit of issues there. The next thing I fixed was using this noise gate thing, which I can't show in this bit. Noise gate is just something that you can use that will close off the channel when you don't want it to actually be outputting anything. So this is good when you want to get rid of some of that silence or some of the breaths. If I go to this bit just before where it looks like there's some silence and maybe a breath and turn the noise gate off, there's a big fat breath there. But with the noise gate turned on, it's still there. I didn't want it to be too harsh and just take it away and make it sound like I'm a robot, but it's definitely diminished some of the breaths, which is what the noise gate's there for. And then we get to the compressing stuff. I don't fully understand this stuff. Compression, I think, is trickier, and I'll need to cover in a full, complete, like, deep dive level in itself. But the basic idea with compression, I understand. The basic idea with compression is you want your loud bits that are too loud to be softened, and you want your soft bits that you're losing in the mix to be bumped up a bit. So that way you've got a clear, consistent, dynamic range, but it's still vibrant. So these two compressors, one of them is quite harsh and one of them is quite subtle from memory. And I couldn't even tell you which is which. This one has a high dB threshold. This one has a low one. This one's ratio is slightly lower. This one's slightly higher. And together, it helps stabilize it. I don't remember off the top of my head. I haven't watched Mitchell's video in a while. But I remember it made the world of difference in terms of dynamics. So if I turn these compression guides off and you listen just to the end of this phrase, it's quite obvious. Chasing the clouds away, out to ringing. On the ow. That's quite ow. Ow my ears. So then I turn these compressors on. Chasing the clouds away, out to ringing. It diminishes that ow, so it's tolerable. You can see the compressor graph here. It's doing quite a bit of work throughout it, doing that stabilization, which is good. And then I've got this de-esser, which is just take off some of that S's, which I'm not going to show, can't be bothered. And then I got these things happening in parallel. So I've got a bit of a tape delay, which gives it a bit more body. So if I play this without the tape delay. Chasing the clouds away, out to ringing. Much more thick. Oh, that's a reverb. Again, adding a bit more breadth. And then 12 and 13 are the interesting ones, which I'll be the final things I spend time on. Okay, super quick. So in these two buses that are running parallel, one of them is doing a pitch shift to the left, and one of them is doing a pitch shift to the right, and then one of them is panning to the left, and one of them is panning to the right. And I'm doing a pitch shift of just 8 cents. So a cent is just 1/100th of a semitone. So it's not that massive that it's going to go out of tune, but it's a little bit different enough that it'll stand out from the mix and you won't get lost in it. But the idea here is, again, to try and thicken the sound by sending slightly different signals a bit further around, so it feels like there's more voice going fully. It's definitely more obvious with headphones, but if I turn them off, chasing the clouds away, turn them on, chasing the clouds away, out to ringing. It's particularly obvious on the held note, but you can hear it slightly more fully around, which is kind of what I was going for. Cool, and that's vocals. So I then took that vocal chain and just plugged it onto all of these different vocals that I did. So the chorus vocals here are that high falsetto thing, and one of them's going right and one of them's going left. Classic. And then I've got the counter chorus thing that happens later with the I think. Lots of jolls running around. And that's pretty much all the vocals. So in the interest of flying over, we continue. Then the final thing I added was I added some percussion, but that's kind of boring. It's just like claps and bongos and stuff. All right. Anyway, brass. So the thing with September, or the thing that I think of with September, is trumpets. And I didn't own a trumpet. I'm a trombone player. So I bought a trumpet off a friend. It didn't work. I got another trumpet from my sister in Perth. That one worked. And I went to town. Problem was, because I hadn't played trumpet since like high school, I could hit a G, like a high G. Not like a super G, like a pathetic primary school G. So I wasn't playing very high. And some of the stuff in September Very high, very hard. So I had to do a bit of wizard magic, and I'll just mute this guy. Does like this. Quite a lot of reverb when it's in isolation, but when I play with a full mix, it sounded like it needed that bit of breath. So I just kind of added it. But with the fake high trumpet thing, basically I made this Frankenstein of a monster where I just pitch shifted him up an entire octave. So if you listen to it, it sounds kind of weird and kind of like a toy, but in the context of everything, it's actually kind of perfect because it hits that register where it cuts through, but it's everything else is kind of happening there. And I can kind of get away with it and no one really notices. And I don't know. Anyway, that's September. That's the mix. I then spent quite a lot of time in post doing lots of automation stuff. It's not in this mix because I lost it. Big boy, you suck. And I added in a sexy sax man stuff as well, but I lost that. Sorry, Harry. But that is the September track. If you want to listen to the full thing, you can find it right here. Sounds pretty cool. We won our talent show, whatever, humble brag. Go check it out. Really good stuff. Anyway, let's level up. Yo, September, yeah. Anywho, so that's September. Moving on, I want to do a different song. I want to do a different song to cover, to do 7 to 9, how to make a cover song from scratch. I've got this playlist called Fiddles. Fiddles is just a playlist of just different songs I like to fiddle with. And sounds weird. I'm probably going to cover one of them. But if someone comes up with a better idea, chuck it in the comments, chuck it on Instagram, chuck it on TikTok. I'm freaking everywhere, man. Chuck it wherever. I'll find it, get excited, or I'll have a look through Fiddles and be like, hey, man, do that one. Until next time. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.